What up, guys? This is Amar from amarguitar.com. Today I'm going to take you behind the scenes at a rehearsal for one of the bands I play in. In the first part of the video, I'll share with you our cover of Back Where It All Begins by the Allman Brothers. This take starts the guitar solo and goes through a total of 3 improvised sections. In the second part of the video, I look at my own playing and show you the scales, modes, arpeggios, and rhythmic approaches that I used while improvising. We'll talk about some of the more subtle aspects of group communication and improvising as a team. I also critically analyze my work and show you the areas that I think I need to work on as a player. Video or audio recording your own playing is one of the best ways to gather feedback on yourself because it can expose blind spots, which are bad habits that you didn't know you had. So I hope you'll join me on this long-ass journey as I drink way too much coffee and put a microscope under my own playing. Grab your guitar or your favorite beverage and let's dive in. All right, let's talk about what the song, how the song starts, and where we kind of are at this point of the song. So we've got a 1-4-5 progression in A. What that means, those are the chords A, D, and E, played in these kind of three shapes. And this is the rhythm that I'm using, which is basically modeled off of what they play on the record. It's not exactly what Dickie and Warren play on the record, but it's kind of what I thought fit, especially as being the only guitar player in the band at the time. So the reason why we call that a 1-4-5 is that let's take the notes of the A major scale. And we'll take those notes and let's say we take the very first note, A, go up 3 notes, 1, 2, 3, call that the third. Let's go up 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Call that the fifth. Smash them together, you get an A chord. And we do that with every note in the scale. So we take the first note, the note that's 3 notes up, and the note that's 5 notes up. If we put those together, we get a chord. And once we do that for every note in the scale, we get all of the chords that are in the key of A. And we can see that A is the first chord, D is the fourth chord, and E is the fifth chord. That's why it's called a 1-4-5. First chord, fourth, fifth. And again, the rhythm. And at this point in the song, we're at the guitar solo, and instead of playing a 1-4-5 for the solo, the way the song goes is that they just play 5 and 4. So the chords E and D, and they play 2 bars each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, in a similar rhythm. So 2 bars of E and 2 bars of D. And that's the progression that I'm soloing over for this solo. And like we talked about, we've got the key of A, right? And the notes of the A major scale. And the magic of the A major scale, which we'll call the parent major scale, because it's where all of our chords come from in the key of A. I can use the A major scale to solo over any of the chords in this key. And for example, let's say we take the one chord, so we take the very first chord, A. Let me loop it. Okay, so we've got the A chord, and I'm going to play the A major scale. And when we play the A major scale on top of the A chord, we can call it A Ionian, and that's the name of the mode. It's the first mode of the major scale. And it might be weird to give one scale 2 names, but we're going to think about the A major scale in the context of the other chords in the key, which is what is happening here in the solo. So let's say we take the 5th chord, E, so let me loop that. Okay, and I'm going to play the A major scale over it. So we can see that when we take the A major scale and play it over our E chord, it doesn't really sound like a major scale anymore. It didn't sound like the Ionian or major scale, did it? So when we play the A major scale over the 5th chord, E, we get the E Mixolydian mode. So we can think of the major scale sounding different in different over different chords in the key. So A major scale, using the notes of the A major scale over an E chord, gives us E mixolydian. And that's the fifth mode of the scale, and that's what I'm using when we play an E chord in this progression. Kind of thinking E mixolydian, which we know are the same notes as the A major scale. So let's take a look at the fourth chord, the D chord, and let's see how it sounds over that. So notes of the A major scale over the D chord. So we can see that yet again, when we play the notes of the A major scale over a different chord, it sounds, again, different. It didn't sound like a major sound in the same way. It sounded a little bit different than the notes of the A major scale over the A chord. So when we take the notes of the parent major scale and play it over the 4 chord, we get the Lydian mode. Since we're in kind of the home of D, we're thinking of D as our home base here, and when we play the notes of the A major scale, we get D Lydian. So in this solo, when I'm playing D and E, E and D, I'm thinking E mixolydian, D Lydian, and we know that those have the same notes as our A major scale. So if you kind of learn where the A major scale is all over the neck, you can solo over this progression without too much, without having to kind of really feel like you're switching scales because you're playing the same pattern everywhere. So let's see how that goes. Alright, so you can see that I'm not just thinking the A major scale, I'm also landing on the kind of the notes that are within the chord. So what that means is when we have our E chord, we can separate out the notes of the chord into what's called the arpeggio. And with the arpeggio, what that means is we take the notes of the chord and play them one by one. And same thing with the D chord. So I'm kind of always landing on one of the notes within the chord. So over the E chord, back to D, so you can see when I was doing that, you could kind of hear the chords change underneath me. You could hear the E and the D chord, and that's because all I was doing was landing on the notes within the chord. So when it comes time for the E chord, I'm thinking all those notes of the A major scale and landing on one of those 3 notes. Same thing with D. Landing on one of those 3 notes when I'm over the D chord. So let's see what happens. Alright, so a couple things happened. I switched from thinking from modes to just playing the E major pentatonic over both chords. And with the E major pentatonic, if you've got a chord right here, you've got our E, go down 3 frets, play the minor pentatonic from that shape, and you magically get the major pentatonic. So here's E. The E major pentatonic right there. And you can also use the blues scale from that shape too. So I switch to that. And then I think what I do here is, let's hear the rest of it. All right, so what you're hearing there is, again, the band behind me still playing the same two chords, D and E, and I'm trying to create a little bit of tension by playing notes that are outside of the chord. So what does that mean? For that lick right there, I'm thinking the notes of E, right? So there's our E chord, playing the little triad that's right in between, and going down to D, and doing the same thing right out of that chord. I'm kind of using the B string to pivot and slide. Sorry. So that's kind of what's going on there. And the reason why it creates tension is, let's hear that. So let me loop just an E chord. Okay, so for the notes of the E arpeggio, again, it's just an E chord. Now let's play the notes of the D chord. It's kind of got a cool sound, because when I play the notes of the D chord against an E chord, it creates that tension. It sounds like it wants to resolve back up, which is what I'm doing. I'm playing over the E chord, and it creates that little bit of motion, kind of pulling back and forth. Let's see what happens from there. I remember what happened here. So that lick, and that was over the D chord. So okay, so what I'm doing is I'm on the 10th fret, right in that little triad, and I'm ignoring the third. I'm sliding down one fret. And the reason I know I can slide down one fret is because I know how the A major scale is up and down the neck. There's 5 basic positions of the major scale up and down the guitar, and if you kind of memorize them, you can mix the arpeggio shapes with the notes of the major scale and just kind of play endlessly, which is how I know I can go down, and it's going to work because I know that note is in that scale. And it's something like that after. Let's hear that. I didn't really like what I did. Let's hear how I can make it better. Oh, that was it. Alright, so what I think I was trying to do is, like we talked about having different chords in the key of A major, you can use any of the arpeggios or triads of those chords to improvise, because, like we said, we can use any of the notes of our parent major scale over any of the chords, and it's always going to at least be consonant. It's always going to, not sound too terribly bad. So what I was thinking for that part, what I was trying to do, I think, that's what I was trying to do. So let's hear it one more time. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to do. Something like that. And those are just the different triads in the key of A. Triad of E, D, C sharp minor, B minor, A. And it definitely did not come out the way I had thought it would have when I had that feeling to do that. But hey, you gotta take chances sometimes. All right, so from there you could hear a distinct change in what happened from what I was playing before. So I switched from that major sound, kind of playing the major pentatonic, into the minor pentatonic. E minor pentatonic specifically. And this is one of those things that a lot of guitar players, when they play over a progression like this, do, which is they save the minor pentatonic for later. Because the minor is always kind of as guitar players, because for a lot of us it's the first scale that we learn, the one we get most comfortable with. There's always a tendency to use that first, and the longer you hold off on that, over especially over like a major pretty progression like this one, which doesn't necessarily have like a dark minor sound, you can hear that when you do bring in the minor pentatonic, it sounds more powerful. So not saying that what I was playing here was necessarily powerful. Okay, so I just saw something that needed work. So E minor pentatonic, E blues scale. That's what I was playing over that. So for a lot of you guitar players out there, I think it's definitely in your favor to try to delay your use of the minor pentatonic in major progressions like this one. I think it's a lot more satisfying, especially since it's got such a tough sound. It's really aggressive, and not that that's bad, but it's better. It's great when you can kind of learn how to mix it with a bit of a more major sound. Even just switching back from major pentatonic to minor. Which is what I guess I'm trying to do here. Yeah. Oh, so something that needed work. Right there. I did not like that bend. Right there. Did you guys hear that? So that bend was very is kind of tenuous. I didn't quite hit the note I was aiming for. That's what I should have hit. I was going from here to the root, which is E. But in that instance, I definitely did not hit my target note. It was a little bit of a weak bend on my part, and I think I could have done better. Bending is tricky. I know a couple of my favorite guitar players overbend a lot. I don't hear too many that underbend, but there was one instance of a guitar player that underbended and shouldn't have. So note to self. All right, so the reason I nodded to everyone in that instance is this is what we were actually rehearsing when we were playing this song during rehearsal. In the song as the Allman Brothers wrote, that's the main progression over for the guitar solo, 2 bars of E, 2 bars of D. And then what happens is they kind of switch to a new progression. And what that is they do 2 bars of E, 2 bars of D, and then they do a little new walk down. They go C sharp minor, D, C sharp minor, C, D, E. So once again, that's 2 bars of E, 2 bars of D, 2 bars of E, then D, C sharp minor, C, D, and that progression repeats. So what I was doing is I was nodding in that section of the solo. So I've got 2 sections of the solo to navigate through. Once where it's just those 2 chords, and now this new progression where we now switch to D, C sharp minor, C, D, E. So that's why I was nodding to these guys, saying that, all right, now we're in. So a couple things happened there. So I did Something like that. And this is another one of those great exercises. If you can learn the major scale, harmonize. So you basically take a note, so A, play maybe the note that's a third up. And if you can learn how to do that with different intervals, it's fun and it sounds good to kind of experiment with the way when you pair these intervals, the distances between notes. You can get some really cool sounds. And what I was doing there is just taking, I'm still thinking shapes, so D, E, and then connecting this shape, just walking right up the A major scale. And that's all that lick was, just thinking in sixths, which is basically taking the note that's a sixth up from my lowest note. And anytime you've got two adjacent kind of shapes, like right there, you can always connect them by a half step. Yeah, that's a little country trick. Also happens in the blues a lot. So that's what that was right there. Something else happened too. So something happened there too. So once the progression got back to E, I was thinking E major pentatonic, and then switching from major to minor. And you can kind of switch back and forth between major and minor all day, especially on a progression like this. It's always gonna be consonant. And that's what I was trying to do here. And then I did another lick where something like that, and I didn't think that sounded as good as I thought it was going to in my head. And what I was doing there is just unison bends. So you take we're in the E shape, bending from the 15th on the B to the 12th on the high E string, aiming for the same note. And then once we get up here, the reason I was doing that is we switched to the D chord, and I was thinking the D shape. Right there is targeting the third of D. I didn't think it sounded. Let's hear that again. Yeah, I think I just wasn't bending strong. My bends weren't strong enough. I think especially here, they were a little bit weak again, which I could do better on. Need a little bit more strength on that bend. And another tough thing that doesn't get talked about a lot with guitar players and guitars is if you play a lot of different guitars, even just one or two, they all bend a little bit differently. So, like for example, to do this bend on this guitar versus like my Strat over here, I would have it's a different amount of pressure on each guitar. Not only because these have two, and the Strat has 11s, but each guitar, even if they have the same string gauge, even if it's the same guitar, the nature of having steel and wood and everything, there's these little micro differences between how much you're gonna have to push to get a certain bend on a certain guitar. So that's my excuse for not doing it well. This guitar is kind of new to me. I think it's like 6 months old. So yeah, I gotta work more on bending for sure. All right, let's talk about that. So the chords for that part, so D, C sharp minor, C, D, And what I'm doing, I mean, what I think I'm trying to do is I'm trying to go. So just outlining the arpeggios, the chord tones, the tones within the chord. So right here, D, right there, C sharp minor, C, D, back to E. And when it's done right, it could sound really good. So, and I think I was a little bit sloppy here. I think I could have done that better. I think I played some sour notes. Yeah, right there. And so something like that. I don't know why I did that. I don't know whether it was a muscle memory thing or I was trying to find a new sound, but I don't think it sounded that good, and I'm definitely going to spend some time kind of playing through, just kind of looping that progression, finding different ways to get around it, because it sounds like every time the progression comes around, I kind of play the same lick, and I think I could be a little bit more free on that, so that's something that I'm going to work on. Okay, so right there, what I did is something like that. And that is definitely a secret I've learned from Trey, is that if you take 2 or 3 notes and you repeat them over and over again in some kind of interesting rhythmic pattern, and I use interesting in quotes because interesting is very relative. To me, that rhythm is interesting. I don't know how I executed it was, but at least the rhythm was interesting, because it's kind of it's a little bit of a polyrhythm, I think. So if the rhythm is bump bump, I was going ba 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 ba. So it's kind of bad. The rhythms kind of battle each other, and it creates a little bit of tension. And it's kind of counterintuitive how playing less, because I feel like right here, it was I was probably playing less notes than I was the entire solo up to this point, but it had that tense feeling because the rhythm was repeating and the notes were repeating. I was playing the same notes, so if you can create tension sometimes by playing less, by just using a rhythm and repeating 2 or 3 notes. And you can see in response to that, the guys around the band, kind of increase the tension itself. Let's right there. So let me play that and listen to what these 2 guys are doing. I know Connor on the keyboard is giving me a nice harmony to work under. Rhythmically, listen to what these 2 guys do when I play that repeating riff. Bass and drums. And that's one of my favorite things about playing with such great musicians, is that they're really listening. You know, they definitely heard what I was doing and they reacted, which is, you know, the most you could hope for as a musician, is that someone listens and reacts when you're playing with them. And these guys, you know, they do it in spades all the time. And you could see that creating that little bit of tension, a couple notes repeating with an interesting rhythm, created that tension, and they reacted by, you know, playing a little bit more and kind of throwing in their 2 cents. And I thought that sounded really good on their part. So one thing I noticed I did, so one thing that makes this challenging is that that progression challenging is that you can't use the A major scale to play over the whole progression. And the reason why is, if you remember the chords in the key of A major, the C chord is not there. So if we look at those chords, we can see that a good old regular C is nowhere to be found in there. And it's that's why you can't just use one scale to solo over this whole thing. and that means you have to address each chord as it is. So. And I think I could do a better job in doing that. I feel like I'm kind of playing the same ideas over and over, and maybe it's because I feel a little limited in this instance. I think for this rehearsal, which happened really recently, I think we've only played the song like 3 or 4 times up to this point. So I think I could just spend some time in the woodshed with that progression and kind of find different ways to play through it. So that's another cool thing. So listen to how Dave over here on the drums kind of finished my sentence for me. So I did a kind of a 2 measure long lick. So like I think it was 2 measures. So let's do that again. I'm playing the lick and I don't land hard on the beginning of the next measure, and then Dave on the drums like he kind of puts his exclamation point on my lick for me. That, and I purposely left it. Shit, I lost my place. I purposely left it blank. I think I did. I don't really remember this part. But I think I do that all the time. It's something that I think a lot of my favorite players don't do. Like I usually Trey and Jerry and all those guys really like to land on the one at the end of a big phrase. Not always, but it's a very common thing for them. But I think a lot of my horn player heroes, like Dexter Gordon and Cannonball and Coltrane, I think they didn't. I think a lot of times when they play these big long licks, they kind of ease themselves back in, which is what I try to do here. Not that I am comparing myself to the Giants in any way. I'm just saying that's kind of a tactic or part of the language that I try to adopt from them. It's right there. Oh, I remember that. Okay, so what I did. And that's right out of the D shape of E. So right there we've got the D shape. Right. Pretty sure it's the same shape that Sweet Child of Mine is based on. I know it's not in the right key. So I'm pretty sure it's kind of based on that. So that's what I was trying to do in that lick. I think that's what I was trying to do. Yeah. Again, that repeating phrase, like I played like bop 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 bop, and that's one of the best things you can do. Again, not saying that what I did was the best, but in terms of feeling stuck in your phrasing, play a lick, repeat it, and see if you can kind of mangle it like a Lego and or like a brick of Legos and kind of arrange it in different ways. And you'll find some interesting results if you can do that. Just kind of take a phrase, repeat it, and play with it in as many different ways as you can kind of see how you can do it. All right, so now we're at the end of the guitar solo. We played through that that B progression, that the second part of the progression. I think it was 4 times. We played through that. Now the guitar solo is over, and we're winding that down. So what I was trying to do there is I was trying to do the Dickey Betts scale, which is the major pentatonic with a natural fourth. So in A, that would be a bunch of Allman's tunes and solos based on that, and a Blue Sky for sure. But it's a very common sound for Dickey, and it sounds great. And I was trying to do it here. I don't think it came off that smooth necessarily. I think I could work on that. I think it was a little bit I like the feedback at the end, but that's about it. I think I could have done better, something a little bit less notey. Because Dickey's such a soulful player, and he's so he's very, in my opinion, very underrated, kind of in the league of great guitar players. But I was trying to kind of channel him, and it didn't really work. I should work on that. Okay, so now we're in the organ solo. I'm still playing the main riff that we talked about in the beginning. A, D, E. I'm still playing that progression, and I think when I'm watching this, I think I'm a little too heavy-handed. If you listen to the Allman's original, they're not playing as, kind of thick and meaty as I am. They're playing a little bit more delicate on that part. I think they're doing something like that. It's definitely more appropriate. I think now hearing back my rhythm, it's definitely too aggressive to support Connor in his solo. He's very notice that when I was playing, Connor was always, on the organ, he was always supporting me, but he never kind of overshadowed me. He never was trying to be very respectful. And I'm trying to be respectful of his solo too, but I didn't realize that now watching my own playing that what I was playing is so I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Yeah, maybe it's. I don't know. So this is why I love playing with these guys. Is I mean, listen to that lick Connor played. It was straight preaching. So I play. I mean, when I play with these guys, I always hope that some of their awesomeness rubs off on me. That's he always plays the way I wish I could play in terms of just being always like very, very soulful, and he explores a lot and is really melodic. I think I've made my decision that is a little too aggressive for what he's playing. I think I could definitely be playing a little, maybe just a little bit more laid back in the mix. So instead of playing the full chord, I'm just playing a fragment. And not so loud, maybe. See, I was really late for the tag back to the chorus. So with Connor on organ, he plays a tag. It's kind of like that with that rhythm. And he played it enough times for me to understand that we were going back to the chorus, because that's what the tag means in his part of the solos. When he plays that, we all know, and we go there. And I don't know what I was doing, but I totally missed it. And you can see that I was late to the mic to sing the chorus. And the chords for the chorus, let's talk about that real quick. So it's E, D, C sharp minor, B. And what I do is I kind of play them just as power chords. and then with a E and B strings ringing. And then it goes to A, G, D with an F sharp in the bass, E, repeat. Back to A. And I could see that was the right time for me to be kind of loud and kind of a little bit in your face with that rhythm. Is when we leave the chorus and go back to the verse, which is what just happened. I think there it sounds good. So I think there was totally appropriate, and I kind of dial back a little bit when Connor starts singing the verse. Still playing the same rhythm. So let's listen to what happened there. So at this point in the song, we're at the final jam, which is a trade between me and Connor. So we play the riff, and then one of us takes like a mini break, just plays a little bit of a solo, just a couple bars. So I do it, and he does it, which is what you just heard. And for that, I was going major pentatonic, since we're in the key of A, D, E. I'm thinking, just like we can use the same parent major scale over the whole progression, we can use the major pentatonic. Why? Because the major pentatonic is the same as the major scale, but just minus 2 notes. So, pent meaning 5. The A major pentatonic just has 5 notes. And the A major scale has 7 notes. So for that, I was going something like that. But the A major scale in this shape, it goes in the A shape. So for that lick, I went back to A minor pentatonic. I think I could have done a better job there. I did not like that lick very much. I think it was just, when we're improvising, by we I mean like these guys that I'm playing with, I know that no one's really thinking about theory or scales or any of that stuff. They're just trying to let it shine through because the eternal ethos of the improvising musician is that you practice at home. And then when you're playing, you play. You try to forget everything that not necessarily forget, but not think about all that stuff and just let it come out. And the more you practice, the more it tends to come out, especially if you practice improvising, kind of finding different ways to play the same stuff. So I don't necessarily remember this lick, but I think as far as minor pentatonic licks go, it wasn't very strong. For me, I think it would have been better. I think it would have been better if I played less notes. Let's listen to that. Let's see what I didn't like about that. Yeah, I think I just tried to cram way too many notes in there. I think just a couple notes would have been way more impactful. Something like that. Just playing less. I think when I view and listen to my playing, I think 90% of the time I wish I'd played less notes than I did. But in the moment, it doesn't feel like you played a lot of notes. I know for me, most of the time when I listen back, it doesn't feel like at the time like I was really playing a lot of notes. But it definitely feels that way in retrospect, that I could have been a little bit more careful with my note choice by just playing less notes. That was another lick where I played a lot of notes, and I think I'm not gonna say I shouldn't have, but I guess it was what I was feeling in the moment. That was just A minor pentatonic. Up here, something like that. Just a lot of fast trills and stuff, and it was okay. Let's leave it at that. So that was back to those sixths in the key of A. And that's all that pretty much was, with a little bit of major scale work. Some good things happen there and some not so good things. So let's listen to that, how Dave kind of finished my sentence for me on that. That's great. I was kind of doing A minor pentatonic again. Something like that. And he was right there and totally amped up the tension. And my lick kind of, it slopped out a little bit at the end. In my opinion, I think it was a little bit, it didn't end very strongly. And that's something I've really been trying to work on is I feel great, when I'm starting my lick, but then just kind of trail off. And that's a prime example of how I think I could have done it better, something I could have done better in that instance was ending my lick a little bit more strongly. But again, Dave was there that most people probably wouldn't notice that I, felt that it was weak, because he was right there and finished my sentence for me. Okay, so you can see right there that after Connor played his last lick, I didn't follow it up with another lick. So at that point, it meant that we're done with the trade. So usually when we're, especially in this band, when we're at a section that people are trading and it's not for a specific amount of time, like we didn't plan to say, all right, I'll play 8 licks and you play 8. Then after the on the 9th time, we'll move on. It's not written in stone. We kind of improvise it on the fly. So the tag here to go from this section to the final section is that when one person plays the lick, the next person who doesn't play the lick when it's their turn means that it's over. So sometimes that's Connor, sometimes that's me. In this case, it was me. So again, because I didn't play a lick and I just played chords, that means we're out of that section now. I kind of look at everyone to be like, yeah, I guess we're out. Alright, so a couple things happened is, notice during that, so we played the chorus chords 3 times, and then we end on an A. and listen to how us three are playing the same thing. And then Dave on the drums fills. He puts in fills, but it's really musical. Like he's not playing a lot, but it's very. So let's see. Oh, and then he does a drum roll to get us into the as like a final, confirmation that we're now out of the jam section and into the final chorus. And he saw me trip over the carpet on my way to hit a pedal or something. I don't know what I was doing, but I definitely tripped over the carpet right there. But yeah, so like I was talking about Dave, how when we're playing the and he's kind of it's those little things that makes when musical is that when they can add their own 2 cents in and lift up a song. Like those little fills were a very minor thing, and most professional musicians wouldn't think twice or about something like that. But it's it wasn't necessarily like a solo. It was just like a little, just a little bit of kind of flair added to the end of the song. Because if he hadn't played those fills and just kind of played a regular rhythm, it may have sounded a little bit empty. But he just kind of put the perfect amount of notes in there to really even out the the feeling of that outro. All right, I made a cardinal mistake right there. Okay, so when we're ending a song, usually we want to look at the drummer because he's the one that usually has the final hit right there. Bam! And I was looking straight down. I was in my own little world, so I definitely could have been looking. And at a gig, 99% of the time I'm doing that. I'm looking at the drummer when we end a song because when they finally go, bam! I want to be there and hit that downbeat right there with them. And in that case, I wasn't. I was zoning out. I was kind of enjoying how the guitar was catching feedback, and I think I got lost in it. I'm guessing that's what happened. And then I missed when Dave hit the final downbeat, and I'll definitely. I think I'm a little bit more lax when it comes to being at rehearsal and doing something like that. Maybe I haven't watched a ton of rehearsal footage of myself, but. I guess now that I think about it, some of the recordings where I'm playing in rehearsal, I kind of linger over everyone when they hit the final chord or beat of a song. But at a gig, I'm good. I swear I don't do that. Cool, and that's the end. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is my first time doing something like this, so I've got a couple more songs from this session, this specific recording session that I want to. I think that would be fun to analyze because the other 2 songs I don't think highlight the best aspects of my playing. I think they show a lot of places for me to work on personally. And I guess me telling you guys about this makes me feel a little bit more like now I have some skin in the game now that I got to work on it since I called myself out in front of you guys. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.